Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today, and we got the idea from a really cool YouTube channel called I Don't Have Time to Read.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, they do these great summaries of books, really detailed with like analysis and key points and all that.
Yeah, they pick some really interesting books.
Right. So we're going to try to do something similar today, kind of in that style, but focusing on, a true classic, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
Such a good choice. I mean, there's so much to unpack in that book. Like, every time you read it, you discover something new.
Exactly. I mean, there's the story itself, but then like all these layers of meaning, especially Maycomb and with all the characters.
Yeah. It's like Maycomb is practically a character itself.
Totally. So that's what makes this deep dive so exciting. We're going to try to peel back those layers, and find those details that maybe you miss on the first read.
Like, what kind of details?
Well, for example, have you ever thought about like the architecture of Finch's Landing and how it kind of reflects Atticus's parenting style?
I can't say I have.
Right. The YouTube channel, they pointed out how the staircase is placed with Atticus's office like right at the top. And it's almost like it symbolizes him watching over his children, especially his daughters.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like suggesting control, maybe even reflecting that whole, patriarchal society of the time.
Wow. That's so interesting. Never thought about it that way.
Right. It makes you think like, did Harper Lee do that on purpose? You architecture to comment on social dynamics?
It definitely adds another dimension to Atticus as a father, that's for sure.
For sure. And speaking of Maycomb, I mean, the way Lee describes the town, it's just incredible. It's not just a setting. It's like...
It's its own world.
Totally. The slow pace of life, the gossip, the heat, like it creates this atmosphere that's both familiar and kind of unsettling at the same time.
You can practically feel yourself right there on the street. Like, you can hear the cicadas buzzing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that slow pace, it gives Lee the space to really, delve into the characters' minds.
Yeah, explore their prejudices, how those prejudices influence their actions.
It's really fascinating, and you see it so clearly in the way the whole community treats the Radleys, especially Boo.
Oh, for sure. It's like they're shrouded in this mystery,
Totally. People whisper about them almost like a ghost story or something.
A cautionary tale.
Exactly. Classic case of, fear of the unknown breeds prejudice.
Right. Boo becomes this scapegoat, for all their anxieties and uncertainties.
Yeah, instead of getting to know him, they make him into a monster.
And the children, of course, are completely fascinated by him.
Oh, totally. They're drawn to that mystery, like moths to a flame. Remember when Scout, Jem, and Dill are acting out those scenes like the Radley family drama?
Yeah, they're basically playing with fire, testing those boundaries.
Right. And it's their way of trying to make sense of it all, like kids are naturally curious.
For sure, they use play to explore big emotions, ideas that they don't fully grasp yet.
Exactly. And the way they interact with Boo, it evolves as the story goes on, Starts with that fear and fascination.
Yeah, but then there are those little moments of connection, like when they find those gifts in the knothole of the tree.
Oh, those gifts. I mean, they're so symbolic, right?
Definitely. It's like a bridge between two worlds that seem totally separate.
Yeah. And it's this powerful message, like even small acts of kindness and understanding can help bridge societal divides.
Absolutely. And it's not just with Boo. You see it with other characters, too. Like, remember Walter Cunningham?
Oh, right. Yeah, Walter. He's clearly from a struggling family.
Yeah, but he still has this sense of pride and dignity,
Oh, totally. And Atticus, despite being a prominent figure in town, he treats Walter with respect and understanding. Like inviting him to dinner even though it might be awkward.
Yeah, because it's the right thing to do.
Right. And it's interesting how Lee doesn't portray Walter's poverty as, like, a moral failing.
No, it's just a fact of life, a part of Maycomb.
Exactly. It's like a reflection of the economic realities of the time.
Yeah, she doesn't shy away from those harsh realities. But she also shows how resilient people can be, how much dignity they have.
Absolutely. And then you have the Ewells, who are like the complete opposite when it comes to poverty.
Right. They're not just poor, they're almost mean-spirited,
It's like they've embraced being dysfunctional and they use it as a weapon against others.
Yeah. Bob Ewell especially, like he embodies this toxic mix of ignorance, prejudice, and entitlement.
Totally. He's such a complicated character.
Yeah.
And it's through the children's interactions with all these different characters that we see them grow,
Yeah.
like morally.
Especially Scout. She's constantly questioning things, challenging those ingrained assumptions.
Oh, she's a firecracker. Remember when she gets in trouble on her first day of school?
For already knowing how to read.
It's hilarious. But it also highlights, the clash between different ways of learning.
Yeah, Scout learned from Calpurnia and Atticus, and it's almost like that early literacy gave her this freedom.
Yeah, freedom of thought, which some people in Maycomb find threatening.
Totally. And then there's Jem. He's older, starting to see how complex the adult world really is.
Oh, yeah. His experience with Mrs. Dubose, that's huge.
That old lady with the morphine addiction.
Yeah, it's a turning point for Jem. He has to face his own prejudices.
Yeah, and see her as a human being, flaws and all.
And he learns about courage, compassion, and facing your demons all through that.
Such powerful lessons, and Lee uses these small, everyday moments to shape their understanding of the world.
Exactly. It's like she's preparing them for the bigger challenges to come.
Like the trial.
Oh, the trial. Speaking of which, we have to talk about Atticus. He's such a pillar of integrity, always calm, even when facing that mob outside the jailhouse.
But you can see his frustration, too. Like, he knows it's an uphill battle.
Totally. But he refuses to give up on doing what's right.
Atticus is such a compelling character. He's idealistic, believing in justice and all.
But also pragmatic, He knows he might not win, but he'll fight anyway.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. And that line about shooting mockingbirds,
Ooh. Yeah.
it's not just a nice saying. It's about protecting innocence, standing up for what's right.
Even when it's unpopular.
Exactly. It's a message that resonates because we all want to believe there are people like Atticus out there.
People who will do what's right no matter what.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's the trial itself, which takes place in this courthouse that feels like...
Super heavy with history.
Yeah. Like the building itself symbolizes the challenges Atticus faces in getting Tom a fair trial.
Oh, and it's so obvious right away when you see how the courtroom is divided.
Right, along racial lines. White people in the main section, black community up in the balcony.
Such a powerful visual, Shows the power dynamics at play.
Exactly. A stark reminder of that systemic racism that's just woven into Macomb's justice system.
And then Bob Ewell takes the stand, and you see how prejudice can just twist the truth.
Oh, absolutely. He's so manipulative, playing on the jury's fears and biases.
Making himself look like the victim. It's chilling to watch.
And Atticus, in his closing argument, he gives this incredible speech,
So powerful, a plea for justice and equality.
but even that can't overcome the prejudice of the jury.
And you see it break Jem's heart. His faith in humanity just crumbles when they announce the verdict.
It's a moment where his innocence is shattered, and he has to face reality.
A harsh reality.
Yeah.
That trial, it really shows you how deep the prejudice runs in Maycomb.
Yeah, even though Atticus, totally dismantles the prosecution's case.
It doesn't matter. The jury's decision, it's like it reflects something bigger,
Oh, absolutely. Way bigger than just one courtroom.
Yeah, and for Jem, it's just heartbreaking. He's old enough to understand the injustice.
But still young enough to believe that the system should work,
Right. And it's not just Jem who's affected. The whole black community in Maycomb feels it.
Remember what Reverend Sykes said? About never seeing a jury decide in favor of a black man over a white man.
Oh, yeah. That line really hits hard.
It shows you how the system is rigged, Even a man of faith like Reverend Sykes has lost hope.
And you have to remember the context, right? This is the Jim Crow era. Segregation, blatant discrimination everywhere.
Tom's trial, it becomes like a symbol for all the injustices that were happening.
Exactly. And it doesn't even end with the verdict, right? Tom trying to escape prison and getting killed.
It's a brutal reminder of the violence that black people faced, no matter what.
It's like Atticus said, Tom was a dead man the moment Mayella accused him.
Yeah, that's chilling. It shows how prejudice can literally be a death sentence.
But even with all that despair, there are these glimmers of hope,
Like the way the black community rallies around Atticus, bringing food to his house.
It's incredibly moving, right? It shows their strength and solidarity.
Yeah, they see what Atticus tried to do even though he lost, and they support him.
And Atticus, despite everything, he stays strong for his kids,
He doesn't sugarcoat things, but he guides them, helps them understand.
He's a role model, showing them how to hold on to hope.
And his actions, they speak volumes. Like, he could have ignored the case, protected his family.
But he couldn't live with himself if he did that.
Exactly. He teaches his kids, and us as readers, that integrity and compassion are worth fighting for.
No matter the cost.
And then, of course, there's Bob Ewell, who wants revenge for being humiliated in court.
And he takes it out on Jem and Scout.
That Halloween night attack is terrifying, especially because they're just kids.
It shows you the real danger of hatred and ignorance, how it can explode into violence.
And then the person who comes to their rescue?
Goo Radley.
It's such a twist. The monster everyone was afraid of actually protects the children.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about him, right?
Totally. And Sheriff Tate covering up the truth to protect Boo.
It's complicated, you know. He knows Boo shouldn't be punished for this.
Yeah, he chooses compassion over strictly following the law.
It's like he understands that justice isn't always about punishment.
It's about protecting the vulnerable and doing what's right, even if it means bending the rules a little.
And Scout, the way she interacts with Boo at the end.
It shows how much she's grown, how mature she's become.
She doesn't treat him like a hero or a monster, just like a regular person.
Sue walks him home, recognizes that he needs his privacy.
That scene on the Radley porch, it's just so powerful. Scout sees the world from Boo's perspective.
She realizes that he's always been there, watching over them in his own way.
And that's a powerful message, right? About empathy, about putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Like Atticus said, you never really know a man until you stand in his shoes and walk around in them.
And sometimes just standing on the porch is enough.
It's about seeing beyond appearances, challenging your own assumptions.
Recognizing the humanity in everyone, even those we might fear or misunderstand.
So we're back and ready to finish up our deep dive into To Kill a Mockingbird. And, thinking about everything we've talked about, it seems like the attack on Jem and Scout and then Boo saving them, that's kind of like the climax.
Yeah, definitely. It brings so many of those big themes together,
Totally. Justice, prejudice, compassion, it's all there. And we see how Scout's innocence is tested, but also how it comes back even stronger.
And Jem, he's really starting to see the world for how it is, not how he wants it to be.
And Atticus, he's in this really tough spot, Does he tell the truth about Boo, knowing that it'll put him in the spotlight, maybe even undo all the good he did?
Or does he protect Boo, even if it means not being totally honest?
Right. It's like a moral dilemma. And in the end, Atticus chooses compassion.
He realizes that sometimes doing what's right means you got to bend the rules a bit.
Yeah, that true justice isn't always about following the letter of the law. It's about doing what's best for everyone involved. And Scout, she gets it too.
That last scene with her and Boo is just so powerful. She doesn't treat him like some kind of hero or freak. She just walks him home,
Yeah, she sees that he's a real person who needs his space.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that line? She says, Atticus was right. One time he said, you never really know a man until you stand in his shoes and walk around in them. Just standing on the Radley porch was enough.
It's all about empathy, right? Like really trying to see things from another person's point of view.
Exactly. We shouldn't judge people based on how they look or what we hear about them.
Everyone has their own story, their own struggles. And when we take the time to understand that, it makes it easier to connect with them.
So what does it all mean? What can we take away from To Kill a Mockingbird?
Well, I think it teaches us about the power of empathy, how dangerous prejudice can be, and how important it is to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard.
It's like a call to action, to look at our own biases and try to understand each other better.
And to work towards a world that's more just and compassionate.
A world where everyone feels safe and accepted for who they are. And it reminds us that even small acts of kindness, like Scout just walking Boo home, can make a huge difference.
It gives me hope, even when things seem dark and cynical, there's always room for redemption, understanding, and for compassion to win out in the end.
So we've covered a lot today. We looked at the characters, the themes, and the impact of To Kill a Mockingbird. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, go for it.
If Boo Radley represents that fear of the unknown, who are the Boo Radleys in your own life?
Ooh, that's good.
What assumptions do you have about people that maybe stop you from seeing them as they truly are? And what if you took the time to really understand them? Do you think it would make your world a little bit more empathetic, a little bit more connected?
That's something we should all ask ourselves. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us and To Kill a Mockingbird. I hope you learned something new.
And we hope you'll check out more of Harper Lee's work and keep thinking about the things we talked about today. Until next time, keep diving deep.